Happy Janmashtami. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
I just remembered Robert is busy with child protection, bringing the Kesava to the temple.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Krishna Janmashtami ki Jai. So here we are, our intimate group of sadhus. Can't you put that on a buzzer or something? Anyway, here we are, our intimate group of sadhus, the elite crew of ones who have taste for hearing about Krishna, and we're hearing on Krishna Janmashtami, which is very auspicious. So today we're going to start chapter 7 of the Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 7. Chapter 7 through chapter 12 are the heart of the Bhagavad-Gita, as I said yesterday. It's protected by the first 6 and the last 6 chapters. There's 18 chapters altogether. So this is the most confidential knowledge available to humankind. Knowledge of the Absolute. Chapter 1. What is this summary business? I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place. This is a summary. Excuse me, put it on pause while I get to the right place.
He's just recording it with his voice recorder on the phone. Nothing special.
Okay. Lord Krishna is the supreme truth, the supreme cause and sustaining source of everything, both material and spiritual. Advanced souls surrender unto him in devotion, whereas impious souls divert their minds to other objects of worship. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madhashrayaha Asanshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Trinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. He's in samadhi. Could you bring those fish in his face? I need them for my voice. Purport. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full of all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of unfortunate people who become attached, who never take to Krishna, are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahmajyoti, or localized Paramatma realization, is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahmajyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, touch Trinu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart, puffed up with academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, as follows. Shinvatham swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha ridyantaksto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiki tadara justamo bhava kama lobhadayascha ye cheta etar anavidam stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantish chidyante sarvasangshayaha shiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asankshayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Text 2. Jnanam te hamsa vijnanam idam bhakshyama sheshataha yaj gyatva nehabhuyo nyaj gyatavan mavashishyate. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Purport. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above-mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord, in disciplic succession, directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation in all types of yoga practice. When the cause of all causes become known, then everything knowable becomes known, and nothing remains unknown. The Vedas say, Kasmin nu bhagavo vigyate, sarvam idam vigyatam bhavati iti. Text 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam abhisiddhanam kaschin mam viditatpataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Purport. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna, although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sorry, I missed one word. Changes the meaning of the sentence. I'll read that sentence again. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such. For it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of Supreme Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not so easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually, according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Bina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatai Yaiva Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman-realized impersonalist or the Paramatma-realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muhyanti yat suryaha. Mam tu veda nakaschana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And if one does know him, then samahatma sudurlabhaha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, tatvataha. Even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable, transcendental qualities of Krishna, his being the cause of all causes, his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore it is said, Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayam Indriyahi Sevan Mukhe Hiji Vado Swayam Eva Spodat Yadaha. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Text 4. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha evacha ahankara iti yame bina prakritirashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Purport. The science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. Material nature is called Prakriti, or the energy of the Lord in his different Purusha incarnations, expansions, as explained in the Narada Pancharatra, one of the Sattvata Tantras. Vishnos tu trini rupani purushakyan yato viduhu ekam tu mahatak shastri tritiyam tvananda samstitam tritiyam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva mimuchyate. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes 3 Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy, known as the Mahat Tattva. The second, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading Supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma. He is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these 3 Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. This material world is a temporary manifestation of one of the energies of the Lord. All the activities of the material world are directed by these 3 Vishnu categories. All the activities of the material world are directed by these 3 Vishnu expansions of Lord Krishna. These Purushas are called incarnations. Generally, one who does not know the science of God, Krishna, assumes that this material world is for the enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the Purushas, the causes, controllers, and enjoyers of the material energy. According to Bhagavad-Gita, this atheistic conclusion is false. In the verse under discussion, it is stated that Krishna is the original cause of the material manifestation. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms this. The ingredients of the material manifestation are separated energies of the Lord. Even the Brahmajyoti, which is the ultimate goal of the impersonalists, is a spiritual energy manifested in the spiritual sky. There are no spiritual diversities in the Brahmajyoti as there are in the Vaikuntha Lokas, and the impersonalist accepts this Brahmajyoti as the ultimate eternal goal. The Paramatma, Chirodakashai Vishnu, the Paramatma manifestation is not eternal in the spiritual world. Therefore, the factual, absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is the complete energetic person, and he possesses different separated and eternal energies. So I just want to clarify this one point. That's why I paused. The Paramatma manifestation is not eternal in the spiritual world, meaning when the soul goes back to the spiritual world, he leaves the subtle body and the gross body, and he assumes his spiritual body. That spiritual body is not an embodied soul. The spiritual body doesn't need the super soul inside the body to direct his activities, because Krishna is outside in Goloka Vrindavan to associate with personally. Therefore, he's called the complete energetic person, and he possesses different separated and internal energies. Therefore, for that reason, the Paramatma manifestation is considered to be temporary, because it's only needed when the cosmic manifestation is manifest. When it's not manifest, he's drawn back up into the body of Mahavishnu. In the material energy, the principal manifestations are 8, as above mentioned. Out of these, the first 5 manifestations, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, are called the 5 gigantic creations, or the gross creations, within which the 5 sense objects are included. They are the manifestations of physical sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Material science comprises these 10 items and nothing more. But the other 3 items, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego, are neglected by the materialists. Philosophers who deal with mental activities are also not perfect in knowledge because they do not know the ultimate source, Krishna. The false ego, I am, and it is mine, which constitute the basic principle of material existence, includes 10 sense organs for material activities. Intelligence refers to the total material creation, called the Mahatattva. Therefore, from the 8 separated energies of the Lord are manifest the 24 elements of the material world, which are the subject matter of Sankhya, atheistic philosophy. They are originally offshoots from Krishna's energies and are separated from him, but atheistic Sankhya philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge do not know Krishna as the cause of all causes. The subject matter for discussion in the Sankhya philosophy is only the manifestation of the external energy of Krishna, and it is described as it is described in the Bhagavad-Gita. Text 5. Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayidam daryate jagat. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior energy. Purport. Here it is clearly mentioned that the living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are products of the inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful, as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. Aparimita druvas tanubrito yadiva sarvagartas darhi nishas yatiti yamam dhruva netarata ajani chayan mayam tad abhimut chaniyan tribhavet samam anujanantam yad amatam madadushtaya. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. It's the fast. Excuse me. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position, only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter, and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. Text 6. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani tripadadaya aham kritsnasya jagatat prabhavak pralayastata. Translation. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Purport. Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood, because that superior energy, spirit soul, is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the supersoul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big skyscraper, a big factory, or even a big city, but he cannot be the cause of a big universe. The cause of the big universe is the big soul. The cause of the big universe is the big soul, or the super soul, and Krishna, the Supreme, is the cause of both the big and small souls. Therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. This is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. I was listening to a lecture yesterday of Srila Prabhupada in London, and one person was challenging, and he said, I'm God, why can't I be God? So Prabhupada had them get the dictionary. And so they read the dictionary, God, and the dictionary's definition of God is the Supreme Being. So Prabhupada looked at him and said, are you the Supreme Being? And then it said, the Supreme Controller. And he looked at him and he said, are you the Supreme Controller? And all the people in the audience started to kind of chuckle, you know. And he couldn't say anything. It's so simple, such a simple truth. Mattat paratanam nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidang protam sutre manigana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Purport. There is a common controversy over whether the Supreme Absolute Truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad-Gita is concerned, the Absolute Truth is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and this is confirmed at every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the Absolute Truth is a person, that the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Absolute Truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Paramak Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That is, the Supreme Absolute Truth personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. The impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Tato yad uttaratam tedarupam anamayam ya etad vidnu amritaste bhavanti atitare dukkam eva priyanti. In the material world, the primeval living entity within the universe is understood, in the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is the Transcendence, who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental. But those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. The impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam. But this arupam is not impersonal. So the word, for those of you who don't know Sanskrit, the prefix a means without, and rupam means form. So that's the way the word is defined by persons who know it in context. The impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam, but this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. In other words, what this is saying is that when the Upanishads say that Krishna is Arupam without form, it means that he doesn't have a form of matter. He doesn't have a material form. His form is spiritual. That's the meaning of the term. Other verses in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad substantiate this as follows. Vidaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasak parastat tameva vidit vatimritam eti tameva vidit vatimritam eti nanyat panta vidyate yanaya yasmat param na paramasti kanchit yasman nani yo no jayosti kinchit vriksha eva stabdo divitishtakekas tinedam purnam purushena sarvam. I couldn't read without you. Now I'll be able to read. Something missing. I know that Supreme Personality of Godhead who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no true superior to that Supreme Person because he is supremmost. He is smaller than the smallest, and he is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree, and he illumines the transcendental sky as a tree spreads its roots. He spreads his extensive energies. From these verses one concludes that the Supreme Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all-pervading by his multi-energies, both material and spiritual. Text 8. Rasoham apsukonteya prabhasmi shashishurya yoho pranavak sarvavedeshu shaptike purusham nishu. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Purport. This verse explains how the Lord is all-pervasive by his diverse material and spiritual energies. The Supreme Lord can be preliminarily perceived by his different energies, and in this way he is realized impersonally. As the demigod in the sun is a person and is perceived by his all-pervading energy, the sunshine, so the Lord, although in his eternal abode, is perceived by his all-pervading diffusive energies. The taste of water is the active principle of water. No one likes to drink seawater because the pure taste of water is mixed with salt. Attraction for water depends on the purity of the taste, and this pure taste is one of the energies of the Lord. The impersonalist perceives the presence of the Lord in water by his taste, and the personalist also glorifies the Lord for his kindly supplying tasty water to quench man's thirst. That is the way of perceiving the Supreme. Practically speaking, there is no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. One who knows God knows that the impersonal conception and the impersonal conception and the personal conception are simultaneously present in everything, and that there is no contradiction. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya, Vedha, and Abheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. The light of the sun and the moon is also originally emanating from the Brahma Jyoti. Can I ask a question? One who's holding a book. Achintya Veda and Abheda Tattva. Is the and in italics?
No.
No.
Thank you. That would have been a mistake, because it is in italics here. It's one of those mistakes that happens when a laid out document is transferred into another format or another software. Sometimes these things happen. The light of the sun and the moon is also originally emanating from the Brahmajyoti, which is the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. And pranava, or the Omkara transcendental sound, in the beginning of every Vedic hymn, addresses the Supreme Lord. Because the impersonalists are very much afraid of addressing the Supreme Lord Krishna by his innumerable names, they prefer to vibrate the transcendental sound, Omkara. But they do not realize that Omkara is the sound representation of Krishna. The jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness extends everywhere, and one who knows Krishna consciousness is blessed. Those who do not know Krishna are in illusion, and so knowledge of Krishna is liberation, and ignorance of him is bondage. Text 9. Punyo gandak prativyam cha tejas chasme vibhavaso jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Purport. Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain flavor or fragrance, as the flavor and fragrance in a flower, or in the earth, in water, in fire, in air, and so on. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and this taste can be changed by the mixture of chemicals. So everything original has some smell, some fragrance, and some taste. Vibhavasu means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, and so on. And that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to a low temperature in the belly. So even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals, and all material elements are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. So this is the active principle of gratitude. You know, one's gratitude can be deeper when one realizes that a person's behind it. Like if somebody leaves an anonymous package on your doorstep or something, and you get, oh, this is nice, thank you very much. But if you find out who gave it to you, then it's more meaningful. It's like that. Text 10. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam vidiparta sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinam aham. O son of Prita, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Purport. Bija means seed. Krishna is the seed of everything. There are various living entities, movable and inert. Birds, beasts, men, and many other living creatures are moving living entities. Trees and plants, however, are inert. They cannot move, but only stand. Every living entity is contained within the scope of 8,400,000 species of life. Some of them are moving, and some of them are inert. In all cases, however, the seed of their life is Krishna. As stated in the Vedic literature, Yato va imani bhutani jayante. Brahman, or the Supreme Absolute Truth, is that from which everything is emanating. Krishna is Parabrahman, the Supreme Spirit. Brahman is impersonal, and Parabrahman is personal. Impersonal Brahman is situated in the personal aspect, and that is stated in Bhagavad-Gita. Brahmanohi pratishtaham. Therefore, originally, Krishna is the source of everything. He is the root. As the root of a tree maintains the whole tree, Krishna, being the original root of all things, maintains everything in this material manifestation. This is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Nityo nityana chaitanash chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. He is the prime eternal among all eternals. He is the supreme living entity of all living entities, and he alone is maintaining all life. One cannot do anything without intelligence, and Krishna also says that he is the root of all intelligence. Unless a person is intelligent, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Text 11. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vimarjitaham dharma virudebhushi dharma virudabhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O son of the Bharats, Arjuna. Purport. The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. Text 12. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasas tamasas chaye mata evititan vidi natvaham teshute mai. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Purport. All material activities in the world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. Although these material modes of nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is not subject to them. For instance, under the state laws, one may be punished, but the king, the lawmaker, is not subject to that law. Similarly, all the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna. But Krishna is not subject to material nature. Therefore, he is nirguna, which means that these gunas, or modes, although issuing from him, do not affect him. That is one of the special characteristics of Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 13. Tribir gunamayar bhavar ebi sarvamidam jagat mohitam na bijanati mamevyak paramavyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Purport. The whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Every living entity, under the influence of material nature, has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. There are four classes of men functioning in the three material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called brahmanas. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called vaishyas. Those who are completely in ignorance are called shudras. And those who are less than the animals, or animal life. And those who are less than that are animals, or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may either be a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary, and we do not know what we are going to be in the next life, by the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life, and thus we think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmana, Hindu, Muslim, and so on. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is behind all these modes. So Lord Krishna says that living entities deluded by these three modes of nature do not understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, and so on. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature, and all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the Absolute Truth. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in His personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those who are in goodness cannot understand, what hope is there for those in passion and ignorance? Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature, and those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. Text 14. Daivi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of His energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the Supreme Will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows: Mayam tu prakritim binyan, mayinam tu maheshwaram. Although Maya illusion is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound, because the bound cannot help the bound. The rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who was originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajaguna, passion, and Tamaguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas confirm this in the phrase, Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnu eva nasankshayaha. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Text 15. Namam duskritino muda prabhadyante naradamaha mayaya paritagyanam asuram bhavam ashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport. It is said in Bhagavad-Gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Krishna, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises. How is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti, or liberation from the laws of material nature, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways, and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hard-working leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society, like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlad, Bali, and later on, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others, who were faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, and so on, surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all-powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, and so on, but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy, nature is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkritina, or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist's brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misguided. In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves, in accordance with the movements of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These duskritinas, or miscreants, are of 4 different patterns, as outlined above. 1. The mudhas are those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so they do not want to part with them for the Supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes. But this braying sound only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma action is meant for yajna, sacrifice. Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living entity, a living being. To such mudhas, material gains, which are destructible, are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mudhas enjoy only a small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruitive gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Ignorant of their real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the Supreme Master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the night soil do not care to accept sweetmeats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense-enjoyable tidings of the flickering, mundane world, but will have very little time to hear about the eternal living force that moves the material world. 2. Another class of duskriti, or miscreant, is called the Naradama, or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being, and Adama means the lowest. Out of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulated principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradamas. Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth and man's relation with him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above him and that he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who is all-powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as a Naradama. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship Him alone as soon as he comes out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct of every living being, because he is eternally related to God with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashrama. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradama. When the whole population becomes Naradama, naturally all their so-called education is made null and void by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog-eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jagai and Madhai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradama, who was condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is propagating the Bhagavad-Dharma, or activities of the devotees, has recommended. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating the Bhagavad-Dharma, or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of this message is Bhagavad-Gita. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only. But unfortunately, they even refuse to give oral reception to these messages, and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradamas, or the lowest of mankind, willfully neglect the prime duty of the human being. Three. The next class of Duskriti is called Mayaya Parita Jnana, or those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of illusory material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, and so on. But the illusory energy misguides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. There are a great number of Mayayati Pradajnana at the present moment, even amongst the scholars of the Bhagavad-Gita. In the Gita, in plain and simple language, it is stated that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is none equal to or greater than Him. He is mentioned as the father of Brahma, the original father of all human beings. In fact, Sri Krishna is said to be not only the father of Brahma, but also the father of all species of life. He is the root of the impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. The Supersoul in every entity is his plenary portion. He is the fountainhead of everything. Thank you. And everyone is advised to surrender under his lotus feet. Despite all these clear statements, the Mayaya Parita Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. They do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord. Man is created in the image of God. All the unauthorized interpretations of the Gita by the class of Mayaya Purita Jnana, outside the purview of the Parampara system, are so many stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual understanding. The deluded interpreters do not surrender under the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, nor do they teach others to follow this principle. Four. The last class of Duskriti is called Asuram Bhavam Ashritaha, or those of demonic principles. This class is openly atheistic. Some of them argue that the Supreme Lord can never descend upon this material world, but they are unable to give any tangible reasons as to why not. There are others who make him subordinate to the impersonal feature, although the opposite is declared in the Gita. Envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the atheist will present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of his brain. Such persons, whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead, cannot surrender under the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Sri Yamunacharya Albandaro of South India said, "O my Lord, you are unknowable to persons involved. O my Lord, you are unknowable to persons involved with atheistic principles, despite your uncommon qualities, features, and activities, despite your personalities being confirmed by all the revealed scriptures in the quality of goodness, and despite your being acknowledged by the famous authorities, renowned for their depth of knowledge in the transcendental science and situated in the godly qualities. Therefore, 1. Grossly foolish persons. 2. The lowest of mankind. 3. The deluded speculators. And 4. The professed atheists, as above mentioned, can never surrender under the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, in spite of all scriptural and authoritative advice." Text 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janak sukritinarjuna arto jigyasur artharti jnani cha bharatarshava. Translation. O best among the Bharats, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Purport. Unlike the miscreants, these are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritina, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these there are 4 classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the Absolute Truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. For material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu defines pure devotion thus: Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulina krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at that time associate with pure devotees and become in their distress devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, and thus transcend knowledge of impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma, and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, the search for mundane knowledge, and so forth, and so on. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. So it is now 20 minutes after 6. We're supposed to stop at 6:30. So it's a good stopping place. Now Krishna's going to explain how these persons who are pious are actually magnanimous souls, and how those who are interested in knowing about him, even from the beginning, are special and especially attractive to him. So, congratulations. You guys are the cream of the crop, because you're coming here every day to hear about Krishna, find out more about him, about ourselves, about this material nature, and what's going on here. So, reflections, questions, comments, realizations. Yes?
Did you get good news from Apple as far as loading from the cloud?
It is loading from the cloud. Not only that, but I got a senior... Wait, this question is outside the pure purview of the Bhagavad-Gita. Bhakti Edwin is just asking me a question about the computer madness I've been in for the last 2 days, which I spent 7 hours of my human form of life trying to figure out. And when I failed, I went to the authority, which is what we do in the material world eventually. When we fail at everything, we come to the authority. So this authority happens to be the senior advisor in Apple Care, and I got one of the best, top guy. So this has nothing to do with the class. This is just my personal reciprocation with Bhakti Edwin, who, thank you very much for asking the question, because it has to do with how I am becoming peaceful and able to go forward in my Krishna consciousness. Yes, I got a guy that was so high in the hierarchy that he has tools that even normal people in the Apple Care system don't have. So he's downloading that file that I was missing, which is very big and very complex, and is not meant actually to go onto the iCloud with this tool, and he's downloading it at a much faster rate than we can through the normal process of downloading through the Comcast or whoever it is. They have it set, Comcast, that if the data is big enough, then they give a burst, and then they withdraw at the speed in order to, number one, discourage you from downloading too big of things, and also to allow room for everyone else to do what they want to do. So yes, it's there, and it's downloading, and maybe by tomorrow you may have it. Next day at the latest. The thing about material nature is that it's imperfect. Even Apple, no offense. Don't stop the download. Beam me up, Scotty. There's no intelligent life down here. And next time, don't send me down alone. Yes, it's symbolic, isn't it? It's symbolic. Actually, this topic that Bhakti Edwin brought out is very, very applicable and very relevant to what we're talking about. Because we can't overcome the material nature, as we've just heard, on our own. It's too big, it's too complex. So analogously, the programs and the sophistication of the latest computers and their software are so complex that practically nobody knows everything about everything. You know, some people know some things. Like the first helper I got was a specialist in iPad, iPhone, and something else, iWatch or something like that. But I needed a specialist in Mac, in the actual computer. So she had to refer me up to him. So it's the same principle, you know. The material world is unlimitedly more complex than any machine that can be built by a material person. Imagine, just think of our bodies, just think of it. Each one of them are completely different than the other, and yet they're coming from the same source, and not just different, but unlimitedly different. And to think that all that came about just by chance, it means something's wrong with the brain. There's no common sense. We don't see anything complicated that is not created by something that is more complicated. You know, I mean, you never see a mother giving birth to a squirrel or something like that, you know. You only see a mother giving birth to a human child. Therefore, this whole evolutionary thing that anyway, it's a big topic, a huge topic. But once we get clued into the simple principles, the basics of spiritual life, it becomes so much easier to open our eyes and see how things are acting and keep ourselves above the fray. That's the purpose of Krishna consciousness, to keep ourselves, at least, not that we stop our activities, but we understand what we're doing, and we understand that we're not, you know, the owners of the fruits, and we are more magnanimous and more charitable and more munificent to everyone, even those of us who are in family relationships, or, you know, and the more Krishna conscious we become, the better partners we are, and the better parents we are, the better children we are even. You know, we have, those of us who have children, I have one, and we know how difficult that can be nowadays. If you try to talk to them about something spiritual, it's like, whoa, you know, they're into the computer games, and the computer games are becoming so sophisticated, and most of them are very violent, most of them. Some of them are, you know, innocent, but many of them that are most sophisticated, they're violent, all about war games and this and that, you know, what's that famous one that's been developed for so many years? Something about auto, anyway, can't remember the name of it, but very sophisticated. And the illusion is that the more sophisticated they become, they think that they're becoming liberated, or more empowered, or more in control. But the very thing that they've created is taking them away from reality and putting them deeper into the material energy. It's ironic, actually. Therefore, according to the scientific principle of Occam's razor, you know, Occam's razor, when there's a complicated situation, scientific problem, usually the solution is the basic, simplest one that sometimes escapes us. And the most perceptive and innovative discoverers of things, they generally get the solutions to their very difficult material problems while they're having shower or something. They'll study, and try to figure it out, and then they can't do it. Then while they're taking a shower in the morning, oh yeah, right, that's it. And they can't put two and two together. They must be getting that solution from somewhere else. I mean, who was it, Mozart? He all of a sudden he started getting full symphonies come into his mind all at once, with all the different parts and all the different, symbolic writing of the music writing, all at once. And he couldn't write it down fast enough, and another one would come in. And he's at one point he said, this can't be happening from me, it can't be. It's a divinely inspired talent. What is it? Krishna said in this chapter we just read, Podosham Rishu, the ability in man. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I was just hoping you continued to give good news.
Yeah, it's not done yet, but because it's coming from that, and it's much faster. The other was, it would have taken me like 2 weeks or something to get down that 22 gigabytes at the speed that it was running. 4 kilobytes per second or something. But I learned something in the process, and that's what we're supposed to do. When we make a mistake, we're supposed to learn. There's a very nice statement in one of Prabhupada's purports in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think I have it almost verbatim. I memorized it. It's that if one can accept punishment as a reward given by the master, then he develops the intelligence how not to make the same mistake again. It's not so easy to accept the kind of restriction or punishment or a corrective measure imposed upon us by authority as a reward. We're always thinking reward means, box of chocolates or a new iPad or something like that. A pat on the head, a pat on the back, and a hug or something. But both energies are required. Therefore, the laws of nature are strict. We're all underneath them. We know it. We're just not learning to. We just don't have spiritual education to be able to see it for what it is. When an atheist sees a child getting burnt by a fire, because the fire doesn't discriminate that the child is innocent, doesn't know what it is. It's pretty, so he puts his hand in. And they say, oh, how can there be a God that is so cruel? And yeah, but the kid never puts his head back in the fire, And we may say, no, don't do it. And he still does it. But when he does it, then material nature trains him, or her. Okay, my voice is gone. I'm doing the fasting. I'm at the end of I'm still in my convalescence. That's why you don't see me, running around and doing all sorts of energetic things. But I want to thank you all so much, because you are making my life meaningful by your submissive hearing and your ears and your eagerness to hear and your curiosity. You all fit into that 4th category of people who come to the Lord, every one of you. And therefore, the next verses we'll read tomorrow will describe why I said that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Janmastami ki jai. Shri Krishna Janmastami Maha Mahotsav ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Nilamadava Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Walk around more often. Envelope. Walk around.
But when he would want to say, if you want to say the song, say hard.